We made sure that everything is, we call it design by security or secure design or, privacy by design and so on and so forth into the architecture from day one.
Regulatory expectations on one hand, there is innovation and adoption happening on the other hand, and the digital financial ecosystems are thriving, they are rapidly advancing, especially in areas like the UAE and regions alike. With that being said, what is next for the CXOs in this region? When we talk about CXOs and leaders from the Middle East, what should be the next top priority?
I take one simple approach, right, where we call it, the investment should be prioritized based on the enablement of the growth of the business while also making sure that we are strengthening the trust. So both goes hands in hand, right? So again, it should not be in silo within what business wants.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. You're watching The Mainstream. I am Simran Shiwalkar, your host for today, and this is the latest episode of the CXO Leadership Dialogue Middle East Edition. Today's episode is going to be specifically themed and centered around securing the digital frontier, leadership lessons from a digital-first banking ecosystem. I am particularly excited to be joined by Mr. Hussain Al-Khalsan, a leader from the UAE ecosystem. Firstly, Mr. Al-Khalsan, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the series.
Thank you, Simran. It's an honor to be here. I hope we have a good chat on this cast and share my view.
Absolutely. Let me take some time to share a few things about Mr. Al-Khalsan. To begin with, he is the Chief Information Security Officer at Zand, UAE, with over 18 years of experience in IT, information security, and cyber security leadership, primarily within banking and financial services. He also leads cybersecurity strategy and digital trust initiatives at Zand, an AI and blockchain powered digital bank in the UAE, and he has also been recognized regionally for advancing secure innovation and resilience in the financial ecosystems. I am particularly thrilled to hear some amazing insights and also understand his perspectives on the evolving tech landscape. So, without any further ado, let's begin. To begin with, Mr. Al-Khalsan, you have spent nearly 2 decades now, shaping cybersecurity and risk strategies in financial services. You're now leading security at Zand, the digital first bank at UAE, which is, AI and blockchain powered. How has this journey been, and what are some key trends that you have seen in how banks now approach security and innovation, especially in the Middle East landscape?
Thank you very much again, Simran. It's a great question. First time someone asked me this question. So, yeah, being a founding CISO here at Zand, right, the shift that I've been seeing for the last 2 decades, I would say, in the Middle East, cybersecurity has moved from being, how can I say, a back office or IT concern rather to be a core business concern and enabler, right? So it's seen as a foundational capability for the digital banking rather than just a control function, which can be added later. So there is a shift of this mindset, right? In terms of, the questions are now, it's not about how do we secure systems, but it's about how do we enable innovation securely. So we being as a, fully digital bank that was, created from scratch as a founding member, again, from the security side, we made sure that everything is, we call it design by security or secure design or, privacy by design and so on and so forth into the architecture from day one. So a lot of processes that we have been seeing as part of our experiences and a lot of controls that we have been often seeing missing is being built as part of this. Now, the second aspect of the shift that I have been noticing is the regulators, right? Regulators are becoming more aggressive and also more collaborative, which also pushes the organizations or banks into adopting this strong governance, at the same time resiliency and transparency, right, without slowing down innovation, I would say. So the end result, is a win situation at the end, right? You have a stronger economy, secured economy, and mature, and it's all secured by design, which changes the mindset when it comes to different business lines.
Absolutely, and rightly said. So, with a lot of adoption, taking place, with a lot of technology advancements happening, especially in the Middle East, the cybersecurity landscape is also evolving now that we have AI, we have automation into the picture. In real terms, from a leader's lens, how should organizations balance this rapid adoption of tech, but also ensure that the security strategies are in place, the risks are in control? How do you view this change?
AI is a hot topic nowadays everywhere. So, I think, in my view, the key is to really treat AI as a capability rather than a shortcut, right? Strong AI governance is essential nowadays. I mean, people need to think about, AI in different ways. There is the what we call it, the generative AI and the responsible AI. There are two key differences here, right? And, the responsible AI is the one that must be operated within a very strong guardrails. At the same time, ensuring that there are proper technology risk assessment that's been in place for AI. So that gives a really strong foundation in terms of how should I treat AI going forward. And at the same time, that balance between, the risk, at the same time, the value that comes in, at the same time, how this can support the innovation within the organization. So again, to summarize, right, AI should be measurable in terms of how the value that can brings on the table, but at the same time, there should be an accountability and traceability. So ownership is often a challenge, a topic that's been, raised in many forums that, where is the ownership when it comes to AI? But at the same time, same principles apply when it comes to the AI as a system. How do you ensure everything is controlled, whether it is on the misuse of the AI or whether it is accidental, I would say, errors or, policy violation in an organization of things that are not supposed to happen. I think that the clear answer is really proper AI governance that takes care of everything else within the organization. And this is what basically we do here at Zand so that we can balance the adoption versus how we can, innovate. Absolutely.
I think we all can agree with that. And, taking cues from that, Mr. Alkhalsan, in your experience, you've worked across traditional banks as well as financial institutions where you have the digital first approach. Take your organization, for instance. Where do leaders most commonly underestimate the challenges of security and threat landscape today? Is there a huge chunk? Is there a major difference? And, what are some common gaps that you have observed over the years?
Yeah, it's another great question. I think we have moved away from the thought process or the mentality where the leadership thought in the what we call it the fortress, mentality where like nothing happened for the past, I don't know, 20 or 30 years and nothing would happen. I think we are over this. But I think what mostly nowadays, the underestimation happens on the complexity. It's the compounding effect of the complexity. It's so often the leaders, underestimate how quickly or how rapidly the risk could be multiplied, because today there are no boundaries when it comes to whatever we do as an organization, right? You are in the cloud, you have API, you have third parties, SaaS, everything as a service, and so on and so forth. So this is great. It gives you, flexibility, it gives you scalability, it gives you resiliency, but at the same time, I think we often lack that, or we underestimate the how quickly that risk, explode in terms of what could go wrong. So I think this is mainly what I've been seeing.
Definitely. Thank you so much for taking that up. And next, I want to understand from you, there is regulatory expectations on one hand, there is innovation and adoption happening on the other hand, and the digital financial ecosystems are thriving, they are rapidly advancing, especially in areas like the UAE and, regions alike. With that being said, what is next for the CXOs in this region? When we talk about CXOs and leaders from the Middle East, what should be the next top priority, or next top, let's talk about investments in security capabilities to support both compliance, business at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I take one simple approach, right, where we call it, the investment should be prioritized based on the enablement of the growth of the business while also making sure that we are strengthening the trust. So both goes hands in hand, right? So again, it should not be in silo within what business wants. but at the same time, not should be something that is really nice to have and forgetting the necessity to have, right? So I think there are 4 or 5 main pillars where we say, the prioritization. So prioritization when it comes to investment or even the capability, right? A continuous risk visibility is one of the key areas that, you should make sure that, whether you have the right capability or you have the right, tools or investment that you could really see that particular risk and it should be visible to you. Ensuring proper resilience is another thing, right? Because we often, talk about, assume breach scenarios where, something will happen one day. Are you really having the right capability or you will be resilient and agile? Also the governance, right? The governance model that will scale within the business. So business will scale and you should be able to ensure that you have the right investment prioritization in terms of how this can scale. Your governance model can scale within the business in no time because business will not wait, right? And we know how they move fast. Every day there is something new, innovation is continuing, and this is where the governance models needs to make sure that it is scalable for the business. And the last is, of course, everyone holds an identity is something also is key. I think those 4 main pillars are, for me, is the priority when it comes to really invest in terms of capability or even tools to ensure, yes, we will support the growth of the business, but at the same time, we will ensure that everything is secure and we have the trust of our customers and leadership and board members.
Rightly said so, and which brings me to my next and my last question of the day. Before we wrap up, I also want to understand from you, having been recognized for leaderships in cybersecurity and digital innovation for so many years now, any best practices that you would perhaps want to give or any word of advice, for today's security leaders who are all about building trust and resilience in a very interconnected digital economy? We spoke about AI, we spoke about technologies like Gen AI, agentic AI, which would be the next new norm. And I'm sure there would be a lot of banks who would be adopting the digital first approach. Any best practices or any key recommendations coming in from you?
Okay. My key advice and recommendation is, not try to be perfect, right? I think it's about trust. Everything is about trust. And trust is built through resilience, transparency, and consistency, right? It's not about perfection. I think, again, the leaders should always think about the risk, right? The response, and at the same time, the accountability in terms of how things are being executed. So a few advices I would say, build on resiliency, assuming that, incident will happen, the same I just mentioned, right? So again, when we give always an example of what happened in COVID, because people they were had in mind that this will never happen, right? And that's where things were shaking at that time. So we need to ensure that, we have this mindset that something will happen and we need to make sure that we have the right resiliency in place that we could really respond. Also, communication is important when it comes to security. So communication to the higher level, and also it's like upward, downwards to everyone in the organization. Also with the regulator, right? So communication is an important aspect to ensure that there is always an open communication about security, whether there is a breach or whether there is, something you need help with, or whether something needs to be improved, highlighting the challenges. Invest in people is another thing. Of course, the capability, the culture within the organization. We often see the most, successful attack vector is people, right? So how do I invest in people in terms of making sure that, they are on my side, not on the attacker side, but at the same time, invest in the capability also within the security team, right? To ensure that up to the mark on what's happening in the threat landscape. The last is collaboration, right? Collaboration is also one of the key things that we say, okay, industry collaboration, regulatory collaboration, but at the same time, business needs collaboration within the organization. So I think these 4, summarizes, experience when it comes to, ensuring that, you are on top of these things so that, you have the ability to adapt, recover, and really continue to earn trust within the industry and with your customers and regulators as well.
Thank you so much for highlighting these key recommendations, right from accountability being open to adopting new technologies, to even collaboration and being open with your communication is what every tech leader needs to understand, whether it's Middle East landscape or otherwise. Thank you once again for this candid dialogue and sharing these wonderful insights. While we wrap up, I most certainly look forward to connect with you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.